Or am I? Good morning. I'm Judith Lay and this is Praise, the programme that connects faith and daily life.
Manx Radio.
Welcome to the Praise podcast for the 7th of April 2019. On the programme today, what really happens when you give up something for Lent? And homelessness. Is it just about rough sleeping or is there more to it? And our music choice is influenced by a splendid concert that's taking place this afternoon at 3 o'clock in the Villa Marina. The Isle of Man Choral Society will begin by performing the beautiful work by Gounod, St. Cecilia's Mass. This is the Benedictus. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Part of the St. Cecilia Mass, which the Isle of Man Choral Society will be singing this afternoon. Along with the Isle of Man Symphony Orchestra, they'll also be performing the British premiere of the latest work by Sir Karl Jenkins, Sing, the Music Was Given, which some of the choir sang at its world premiere in New York last year. Another highlight of the concert will be a performance by the Man in Youth Choir under the direction of Mandy Griffin. They'll be singing another new Karl Jenkins work called Lamentation. This is a musical setting of an award-winning poem by a 14-year-old Syrian refugee who will actually be at the concert this afternoon. Amineh Abu-Kerech received the 2017 Betjeman Poetry Prize for her work, Lament for Syria, which she will recite at this afternoon's concert. All these works are too new to be available as recordings, but there will be Karl Jenkins music throughout the programme. Extracts from The Peacemakers, a collection of 17 different pieces with one central theme, described by Karl Jenkins himself as all religions, all singing one song, peace be with you. He's taken words from iconic figures that have shaped history: Gandhi, Mandela, Martin Luther King, Anne Frank and Mother Teresa, to mention just a few. There's a Celtic prayer for healing and a Bible verse from Matthew's Gospel that's central to the title of the collection. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Blessed Are the Peacemakers by Karl Jenkins. More from that collection a little later in the programme. But now let's meet my first guest, a man who I think truly matches that music. Michael Manning is the coordinator of the charity GRY, offering a home to the homeless. The word homeless immediately makes me think of rough sleepers, crouching in doorways, huddled on park benches. But as Michael explains, there's much more to it than that.
Homelessness is absolutely rough sleeping, the destitute on the streets, but it's a lot more than that as well. And it encompasses people who are in temporary accommodation, insecure, unsuitable accommodation. So although they may have some sort of shelter, they might not have access to cooking or heating facilities, no privacy, no tenancy security. A good way that we often explain it to people is to ask people to think about home and the connotations that they have with home. And people come up with all the lovely words around the bricks and mortar, of course, but it's a place of food and family and memories and safety and relationships and security. And when people realise that home is actually quite a rich concept involving, yes, shelter, but not just shelter, they realise that homelessness is actually a lack of all those other things as well. It can be a lack of shelter, but it is also a lack of relationships and security, a place of safety, a place where you can have food, a place of warmth, a place of comfort. Last year in 2018, we had contact with 225 different individuals through the course of the year. Homelessness is a very varied phenomenon, and often, as lots of social problems on the island, because of its smaller scale, is more easily hidden. And so because it's not visible, people sometimes think that it's not there, but it is there and requires a response. One really defining factor that runs through a lot of them is the loneliness and isolation. People often come to us when they've got no other support networks left, very broken relationships with family and friends, if they've ever existed. And people are very, very lonely. And when you're on your own, you're just sort of in a pit, your world shrinks and becomes very small, and you begin to lose perspective, and you lose the ability to see that there are decisions that you're making that are maybe not very good. You lose the hope that things can change. And it's that isolation and the hopelessness that can be a really damaging thing. And that's what keeps people in situations of real pain.
What strikes me is that your work is actually becoming family to these people who've lost all those relationships.
It really is. And I mean, there are large elements of our work that are about helping people over a crisis. People might come stay with us for a couple of nights, get a bit of financial assistance moving into accommodation, and then we don't see them again. And that's fine. We've helped them in an emergency. But for a far broader group of people that we see, we do become surrogate family, and it's about those relationships. And so we'll continue to support them if they move into accommodation. We'll visit them in hospital and prison and in the community. We often become next of kin for people, and we'll accompany people over to Liverpool for hospital operations and appointments and things. And so it's very much relationships and people have always been at the very heart of what GRY is and does. It's the Manx word for love. It's there in our name, and people are really at the heart of what we do. And so those relationships, as much as possible, coming alongside people kindly and gently and walking with people wherever they are, at whatever pace they want to go, is really fundamental to who we are.
Michael, where are you based and what times are you open?
We are based at the Alpha Centre next to the Baptist Church building on Broadway, and our drop-in there is there during the day, every day apart from Saturdays, and then we're also open in the evening, every evening of the week. Our evening opening is from 9 o'clock. Our daytime opening varies a little bit, and there's details about our opening times on our website. The drop-in it's a unique environment, really, that's chaotic in its own little way, and yet is sort of just there stably every day and opening up and providing a basic welcome to people. When the guys come in, they're often people in crisis. There's often a lot of fear. There's a huge amount of anxiety. There's maybe a lot of different problems going on. It's a big thing for somebody to come through our doors and say, look, I'm homeless and I need some help. There's a great level of humility involved in needing to do that, and vulnerability because of that. And when they sit around the table and they meet with us and we share a cup of tea and some food and we begin to chat, they begin to realise that there's other people in similar situations, but that things can change as well. I was speaking to one guy up in prison just a number of weeks ago who's quite new to us, and he said, when I get out, he said, I'm going to come back down to the drop-in because it's like a community down there, and I know that there's people that I can talk to. Sometimes they just want to come in and just sit and be in that environment where they know it's like around a family dining table, where you just know that there's people around if you want to talk, and they can just sit and be in their own way. And that's something really valuable, and that's what keeps people coming back to us and accessing the support and building that relationship with us.
Let's talk about the nighttime shelter shelter that you're offering? Because this is comparatively new.
We've always offered at the drop-in emergency accommodation to people who would otherwise be rough sleeping, and the level of need for that has fluctuated widely over the years. Over the past couple of years, we've seen that level of need increase, and last year in 2018 we had a number of situations where we were unable to provide basic shelter to people due to lack of volunteer capacity, due to not being open at the drop-in 7 nights a week. Historically, we've only been there 6 nights. And so we reached a position sort of end of the summer, early autumn, where we thought, in conversation with our other partners, Housing Matters and health workers in the community, where we thought that actually we need to improve the offer of basic shelter on the island. There seems to be a rising level of need. We're not sure what the need is, but we need to put it on a better footing. So we were able to secure some funding. The Manx Lottery Trust, the Treasury, AFD, Churches Alive in Man and other donors very kindly gave us some funding to run a pilot scheme, which has involved us employing full-time staff who will work waking nights for us. So there's always people there at the drop-in 7 nights a week. They're there throughout the night, regardless of whether people are staying. And we're offering a very basic, unconditional welcome to men or women over 18 for basic shelter. We'd like to run it for 12 months. We need a little bit more funding to get to 12 months, but we'll run it for as long as we've got funding for, up to 12 months. And that will allow us to test the level of need. We opened at the end of January. We've already provided 65 bed spaces to 18 different individuals, most of whom have been completely new to us. That's higher level of need than we thought. So it's very early days in the pilot. We're keeping an open mind. We won't make any decisions till later on in the year. At the moment, we're just very happy to continuing to offer that welcome to anybody who needs basic shelter. We're there every night, throughout the night. We've had a number of situations where the police, for example, have been able to bring people in the small hours of the morning when crises have kicked off. Out of our social workers or people who've come into crisis in the middle of the night can still come down and have somewhere to sleep and shelter. We couldn't do what we do without the generosity of people who support us financially and donations and our volunteers. But even more than that, the good relationships we have with health and social care, building relationships with mental health, with other charities such as Food Bank and Housing Matters, and with the huge support of the faith community. You know, we're very well rooted within the congregations on the island, across denominations, and have got a huge amount of support from Christians on the island as well. And it's that level of support and that network that makes it an expression of the community's care for those on the margins rather than just ours, and that's really fundamental as well.
More music there from The Peacemakers by Karl Jenkins. And back now to my special guest, Michael Manning of the charity Gry, offering a home to the homeless. Gry welcomes people of all faiths and no faith, but it's Michael's own faith that led him to Gry and keeps him there 14 years later.
For me, the guys at the drop-in that I've had the privilege of spending time with and of sharing some life with over the years have taught me far more than I've taught them. And it's been a real privilege when people open up and trust you and let you into their lives at times of immense vulnerability. And I think as a Christian, there's an element of the guys being quite prophetic in that they're on the edge of society and they show us maybe ways of living that are not very good, maybe brokenness that we all sort of struggle with. And it's one of those situations where I think it calls else for eyes to see and ears to hear. And I think there have been, over the years, the situations that I've been confronted with at the drop-in and the lives of the guys have been a huge challenge and a huge blessing to me, and continue to be a challenge and a blessing as a Christian. And I think there's so much to learn about how the Christian community can respond to that, what it requires Christians to do. It's never just the case that it's us, the sorted, helping those, the unsorted, as if they're different from us. It's very much a case that when we sit with people who are broken, when we open ourselves to those relationships, we find that we're transformed as well. And actually, that's where we see Jesus. I meet Jesus in the guys and in the situations that we see, and hopefully they see something of Jesus in me and the other Christians who they see through Gry as well. But I think there is something profound about spending time with people, and particularly people who are really struggling and have got lives full of such pain, and being able to try and look for the hope and the joy and the peace and the justice of God in that, I think is a really specifically Christian task. And I think there's huge challenges. I would love to see more houses of hospitality on the island, houses who've generously taken people in who have been homeless and have been trying to provide some kind of a supportive family environment to people. That's not a work of Gry in that sense. That's private households doing that. I'd be very interested in talking to anybody who wanted to explore Christians living together to offer hospitality to those on the margins. I think those sorts of different models of life are exactly the kind of provocation that the guys point us to and should be really embraced.
You really love these people, don't you?
I'm one person in a whole group of people there who have been privileged to be in this time and place. As a Christian, I think the work is God's work and it's not my work, and I think the goodness that people see is the work of God in us. I get just as scared and just as uncomfortable and just as afraid as anybody else when you're faced with difficult, demanding situations and people. Maybe there's aggression there, maybe there's fear, maybe there's anxiety. I have exactly the same reactions as anybody else. Just over the years, God has used the guys to teach me about how to see him in people and to welcome them and to respond gently and kindly. And that is a work of the Spirit. It's not something that comes from me. It's very much something that God is at work doing. You have to have a care for people. And I think that's fundamental as a Christian. I think that's fundamental as a human being. And that means people, even when they're in the most difficult and demanding of situations, people are really precious. And people don't think they are. People come into our drop-in time and again, and I sit with people who spent their whole lives thinking that they've got no worth, struggling with rejection, struggling with self-loathing, and they need to know that they are precious. Everyone is precious, and we can't stress that enough. With any work with people, you have to care. You have to be able to care about what happens in people's lives, which means you're affected for good and for bad. When they're doing well, that's fantastic and it's encouraging and it fills you with hope. And when they're doing badly, that is really frustrating and fills you with a lot of sorrow and sometimes despair. But a lesson that we quickly have to learn, those of us who are involved at Gry's, we're not people's saviours, and fixing people is something that we can't do. What we can do is we can respond kindly and gently to the mess of people's lives and attempt to be a listening ear and to walk with them and help if we can. And that means that you have to care, but not so much that it destroys you if things go badly wrong as well. And so it can be really difficult and emotionally demanding and spiritually demanding to walk to find that balance and walk that line. We are welcomed so extravagantly by the Father. The welcome that we're able to offer at Gry and the spending time with people is just one tiny aspect of God's welcome and care for people who are on the margins. So much, particularly over the past number of years, of spending time with people is simply being able to respond as calmly and as peacefully and as gently as you can to what is often an ongoing crisis and often lurches from crisis to crisis. I get angry, I get sad, and I often alternate between angry and sad. So very much the guys have been a blessing to my prayer life over the years and continue to be. And again, as a Christian, it's a privilege to be in a place where people are vulnerable and open up to you and allow you to walk with them. And actually, I found that some of the deepest and most real spiritual questions and struggles come from the guys. They want to know what you think as a Christian. They want to know why life is rubbish if there's a good God. And I think those are really powerful questions, and they're things that we shouldn't be shying away from as Christians or as churches. Things that I don't think there are easy answers for. And I say that as a Christian. I don't think my faith has a pat answer to the problems of people's lives. But I do know that there is a God who loves these people. And I do know that there is a God who hopes for so much better than the brokenness that we see day in and day out at the drop-in. That absolutely has informed and shaped the expression of my faith in my prayers over the years.
Michael Manning, absolute privilege to talk to you. If people would like to know more about how GRI operates and perhaps raise some money for you, is your website the best way?
Yeah, all our contact details are on our website. That's gry.org.im. All our contact details are there. We're always happy to speak with people of all faiths and none about how they might want to participate in and support our work. We'd love to get in touch, and we're always happy to chat.
Michael, thank you. And GRI, the Manx for Love, is spelled GRAIH.org.im. Part of Healing Light, a Celtic prayer from the Peacemakers collection by Karl Jenkins. Castle Rushen High School student William King came to Manx Radio on work experience some while ago and has been coming back as often as his studies permit, helping to produce and present current affairs programmes. In fact, one he made entirely on his own, investigating the attitudes of young people to politics, has just been nominated for a National Radio Award. But when I used social media to congratulate him, I found out that he'd given up Facebook for Lent. William King joins me now to explain.
I think when I was thinking about whether I should give something up for Lent, I'm not sure it was in a sort of a way of, yeah, I'm going to give this up so that I can spend the 6 weeks getting closer to God. I'm not sure that was my thought. I realised that I was on Facebook a lot. I was on the evenings when I woke up, and I just thought it was sort of not taking over, but I was busy. I was on it a lot. And so I just thought, do you know what? Lent is a time for giving things up. And so I just deleted the app, not deleted my account. I was a bit apprehensive at first. I didn't know whether I might not get invited to things, because that seems to happen on Facebook, and what would I miss going on Facebook. But it seems to be okay, and I've basically found that I've been able to focus more on other things, such as my schoolwork, practicing my trombone. Yeah, and I think it's probably made me a bit happier.
Do you think as a result of this, William, it might shape how you use Facebook after Easter?
Yeah, I certainly don't think I'll be on it as much. I'll still be on Facebook. I'm going to go back to it. I don't think I'm coming off forever. But I certainly realised that there's no need to be on scrolling every time you get on the bus or every time you get off the bus. You know, you can just sit there and look at the view if you want.
Looking around at your peer group, do you worry about the influence of social media on your friends? It's inevitable that I would ask you this, I'm afraid, William.
Yes, yeah. It's there. Social media's there a lot. When I was thinking about this, I thought, should I give up everything? But I'm not sure I could bring myself to do that. I guess we're just the generation who, they say live online, but I'm not sure about that. I would say that we've got it, it's in our pocket, we're well connected to each other. I've come off Facebook, but I've still got Instagram and Twitter, and I do have to say that I have found myself on those a bit more, but I don't think it's as much as I would have been on Facebook, so that's not a massive problem. Do I think social media has a bad influence? I don't think so. I think it is predominantly a good thing. It has its pros and cons, as we know. And when I was coming off Facebook, I wasn't doing it because I was scared of all the information those people have. I currently don't have it as a worry, but if I've said that on the radio, I undoubtedly will be hacked tomorrow. But yeah, I don't think it's a massive issue for young people.
You've done something that is achievable. And the trade-off has, as you've said in your own words, you become more aware of your own surroundings, looking out of the bus window instead of scrolling, and what you see and what that might trigger as a train of thought. And is that a balance that you'd be keen to maintain?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to maintain it. Obviously, at Lent, as well as giving things up, people take things up. And this was something I toyed with, but I thought, no, I'm just going to give up Facebook. And instead of taking up a new activity, I've found that instead of doing that, the activities that I'm already doing, I've been giving more time to. And then, therefore, I feel that I'm getting more out of them.
You said right at the beginning of our conversation, you didn't give up Facebook in order to say, oh, this will get me closer to God. Where is God in your life?
For me, I've always been a Christian. I've been brought up as a Christian with my family, going to church, going to beach mission in Portsmouth Mary in the summer. And recently, I might say, I guess I might have come a bit further away than I have been in the past. I've been having a job at Manx Radio on a Sunday, which has meant I've not been able to go to church as much. I do still go, but sometimes I do have to come up here instead. But I wouldn't say that's meant that I'm further away. I'm not sure really.
As you get to your age and you're starting to think about the world and your place in it, it's a good thing to challenge your beliefs and to see where God fits into your life as a young man, which will be very different from when you were at the beach mission as maybe a 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old.
Absolutely, Judith. Yeah, I think it is important to just have that deeper way of thinking about things even. Should I do this? Well, maybe. I don't know. I'll go and I'll have another think about that. I might pray. It's a deeper thought process more than anything, I find.
William King, thank you very much indeed for talking to us this morning. Thank you for listening to this week's Praise Podcast. There's a new Praise Podcast available every Sunday morning. You can subscribe for free on iTunes, Google Podcasts and Spotify via the Manx Radio smartphone app or at manxradio.com. And don't forget to take a look at the Praise blog, the home of our church notice board. Go to manxradio.com, on the homepage click on air, and on the drop-down menu follow the link for blogs. So, until we meet again, this is Judith saying thank you for your company, and I wish you and those you love every blessing in the days ahead.